Welcome to Piano Inspires podcast, celebrating pianists, teachers, and innovators as they share their inspiring stories about the transformative power of music.
Hello, my name is Isan Kwan, and I am the Director of Institutional Engagement at the Francis Clark Center. I am also the column editor for the Piano Magazine and column editor for New Music, Materials, Pupil Savers, and Teaching Materials. I am so delighted here today to be having a conversation with Dr. E.L. Lancaster, who's a dear friend, advisor, mentor, just a lifelong person for me. So I would like to read a very short bio. Dr. E.L. Lancaster is Director of Publication Projects at the Francis Clark Center. Previous positions include Senior Vice President and Keyboard Editor-in-Chief for Alfred Music. He was the David Ross Boyd Professor of Music at the University of Oklahoma and is currently piano faculty member at California State University, Northridge. In 2019, he received the Lifetime Achievement Award from the National Conference on Keyboard Pedagogy. Dr. Lancaster has presented workshops for teachers throughout the United States, Canada, Hong Kong, China, Korea, Malaysia, Singapore, and Thailand. He is the author and co-author of more than 400 publications designed for students of all ages. Welcome, Dr. Lancaster.
Thank you, Isan. It's great to be here and talking with you because we have a history that goes back, through the time that you were a doctoral student at the University of Oklahoma when I was there, and you became almost like a family member there.
Yes. And so this is very special and very meaningful. Reading your bio and sharing it with the world, I think this is such a special opportunity for people to hear from your own voice about your experiences in terms of how you are here and how you've navigated your career, and also learning things along the way. We will, I know we will, as we talk here. But I just thought maybe we could start with your early years.
Well, I grew up in Tennessee. I grew up in the little part of Tennessee that juts up into Kentucky. And we did not have a piano in our home, but my grandmother had a piano. And when we would go visit her when I was very small, probably 3 or 4, I would sit at the piano and I would bang on the piano in rhythm. But and in my mind, I was hearing things. I was hearing music, but it was all just clusters that I played in rhythm. So when it got time for me to study piano, the grandmother gave us her piano and I started lessons.
Oh, how special. So your first experiences with music, it came from you.
It came from me, and my mother's youngest sister also played the piano. And I think she was a music minor maybe in college, but because I still have her old copy of Mendelssohn's Songs Without Words that with her name written on it. So
Oh my goodness.
that was always interesting. And
So were your first teachers people you knew, or were they official?
actually, I had 2 first teachers, or 2 pre-college teachers, I should say. And initially, when I was 6 years old, my parents wanted me to, or I guess I wanted to begin to study, or they wanted me to, or I guess all of us wanted me to. The piano teacher in the neighborhood, and it's a small rural neighborhood. It's probably even one of the poorest counties in Tennessee. So there were not a lot of options at that particular time. There was a piano teacher who taught at the school. The school had a room that she was like her studio, and my parents asked if I could have piano lessons. She said, "I have no more time. I have one 30-minute slot, and there are 2 other of your classmates that want to study." So she said, "We'll have a group lesson." Well, it really wasn't a group lesson. Each of us had 10 minutes.
Wow.
And the other 2 of when we weren't having our 10-minute portion of the lesson, uh, we would, I don't even know what we would do. I think we would set up for the rhythm band that she had after that. I think we put out the instruments maybe. So
Oh
it
my
wasn't really a
goodness.
group experience. Then that was very minimal that first year of lessons. And then we changed schools and I wasn't able to take lessons the next year. So I really started when I was 8 years old. And I worked with that teacher for a while. She was a graduate of the Cincinnati Conservatory, uh, and she taught John Thompson, as so many of us have done. And
Uh-huh.
then eventually I studied with another teacher, uh, and both of those two just instilled the love of music for
Oh my
me.
goodness.
Yeah.
So that probably in some ways instilled some ideas in terms of how how you see teaching. You know, shouldn't that be an important part of what we do, instilling that love?
Absolutely. That is probably the most important part. I always say, there's always going to be someone on that concert stage. You've got to teach a lot of people who will love it and will sit in the audience.
Mm.
I think that is so important. And then when I was a junior in high school, uh, my teacher said she said I would like for you to study with someone who is more, I don't think she used the word advanced, but who can work more with you. And then I went to Murray State University and studied with one of the faculty members there who I continued to study with through my undergraduate years.
So did you have aspirations when you went to Murray State, when you went to college, have an idea of you're clearly you went to go study piano and music and have a mind in terms of vocation, direction, path?
I actually had no idea. I knew I loved music.
Mhm.
I come from a family of teachers, so I signed up for a double major. I
Mm.
signed up for music education and math. After the first math course, I knew it wasn't math for me. And the nice part about the music education program there was I was treated like a piano performance major, even though I wasn't. And I ended up, I played all the time and accompanied all the concertos and for people, gave recital, played my own solo recitals and etc. But I was certified to teach as well in the public school. And when I did my student teaching, it was a very, very unique situation. There were so many student teachers that semester
Mhm.
that they had a hard time placing them. They placed me with a first year teacher who happened to be a fraternity brother. So you can imagine what kind of experience that was. So I decided, I really don't want to teach public school. I don't want, and I applied as for piano at several schools and ended up at the University of Illinois, where I studied pedagogy with James Like and Gail Berenson. And that put me on the career that I wanted to go on.
So how long did you teach public school?
I didn't teach. I only did the semester of student teaching. I never taught public school as a job.
But you knew at that point that you were wanting to do something else.
I knew I didn't want to teach public school. I knew I wanted to do something with piano.
And so
But I had to figure that out in my master's program.
And that picture became clear for you.
It became very clear when I got to the University of Illinois and I got into the piano pedagogy class with Like and Berenson. Then I knew what I wanted to do.
And what was the state of group piano at that time, though?
Well, Jim Like had established the group piano program at the University of Illinois, and we observed all the group piano classes. There was no electronic piano lab at that point. It was all on acoustic pianos. The other thing that they also had a jazz program there, and we were encouraged to take jazz piano in a group setting at the same time, which was also really helpful in really learning how to teach group piano as well as just observing the classes that were there.
Mm. I mean, I can't help but go to group piano because, I mean, you're larger than life, and not just in my own life, but in so many of the teachers, where group teaching was when I saw it, experienced it, I knew instantly this is what I want to do. This is what I want to specialize in, amongst other things. And so I'm trying to backtrack in time. How did that? Did it find you? You found it, or?
Well, I knew I loved it when I was that master student in those classes. And then when I got my first teaching job, which was at Harper College, a community college outside
Right.
of Chicago, Harper was a relatively new school at that point, and I was to be the fourth full-time music faculty member. And Harper called Jim Like and said, "We're hiring someone to really be in charge of the piano program, but mainly the group program, and coordinate adjuncts who taught most of the private lessons." And they said to Dr. Like, "We want one of your students. Can you recommend someone?"
Wow.
And he recommended me. And then I don't know how many other people they interviewed, but I ended up getting the job, which was very, very lucky because I was able to just build that program from the very beginning because there really hadn't been a program before. They may have had a class or two, but it wasn't really organized as a real group piano curriculum,
Yes.
with that kind of oversight, I should say. Yeah. But let me add a little bit more.
Sure.
So at that point, I don't know if the name Larry Rast means anything to you. Larry Rast taught at Northern Illinois University. He was for the first Wurlitzer electronic labs. He was the person that Wurlitzer hired to go around the country, literally, and train people to teach group piano in an electronic piano lab.
Wow.
He was the essence of creativity. And he taught a graduate seminar in piano pedagogy one night a week at Northern Illinois University. I commuted over my second semester of teaching in Harper and took his class
Oh
because
my.
he was the guru of electronic piano lab teaching. And then as I began to go on, I mean, I knew that was what I wanted to do. And then when I was figuring out what I wanted to do for graduate school, I was fortunate enough to go to Northwestern University and work with Francis Larimer, who was also a guru of group teaching, and which you worked with too.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. That's where I caught my spark too.
Right. And so between Jim Like and Gail Berenson and Larry Rast and Francis Larimer, I studied with all the group piano leaders at that time.
Well, and you are continuing to still lead. I can't help but, when I wear my faculty hat, I know programs often go hand in hand with curriculum. And you have had such a hand on that in terms of developing group teaching as a concept. Here's group teaching as a program, but where did the curricular aspect, and I guess that's all pedagogical too, in some ways, you can't separate one from the other, but how did that knit together?
Well, let me back up a little bit. My connection with Larry Rast at Northern Illinois University was very interesting because it led to other doors for me too, because he since he was the consultant for Wurlitzer who went around and trained people to teach in Wurlitzer labs, Wurlitzer furnished the electronic piano labs for Interlaken, which was then called the National Music Camp. It's now called Interlaken Arts Camp. And when they hired people to do group piano Interlaken, they called Larry and said, "Who should we hire?" So I get this call. Larry Rass has recommended you to teach group piano at Interlochen. I'm
Oh,
24.
wow.
And so that became a really wonderful experience to me. Then after going back to Northwestern and doing my doctorate, I knew that I wanted to find a position where I could uh, shape a curriculum that trained people to teach group piano.
Hmm.
And I was fortunate enough to get a job at the University of Oklahoma, and that's where I started the curriculum development and
Wow.
etc.
Well, remember first seeing your name in the class textbook, the Stecker Horowitz,
Right.
Lancaster.
Yeah.
Uh,
Keyboard
yes,
strategies.
keyboard
Right.
strategies, and looking at this does not look like a piano. It was novel in
Mhm.
the sense that there were group activities, there were musicianship, there was foundations, there's piano technique, improvisation, even it just looked different, and I thought I'm learning to do different things here. And that was very meaningful.
It was kind of that whole book was kind of a fluke because you probably know that Stecker and Horowitz were a duo piano team, a concert duo piano team who happened to play at Harper College. Fred Kern, who taught at Northwestern and
Mm-hmm.
University of North Texas eventually, at that time taught part-time also at Harper and taught a group piano class at Harper. And we had become friends and started like kind of developing materials together. Stecker and Horowitz had the connection to a publisher. We had the group type things. So we collaborated with him on that book. So that was the first time. And Fred was a real
Yeah.
key on that in that too. Yeah.
Well, I think I could see now talking to you the seeds of what a great collaborator you are,
Right.
yeah. I mean, you are a bringer of people together, or I mean, if I can put that as a word. But honestly, like you said, this is how you collaborate with authors and ideas, and you make a product, and you've been doing this your whole lifetime, and you're continuing to do that with new materials. But you bring people together, you look at materials together, and you end up with an outcome together. And I just think that's such a special quality about you.
Well, the first product, let's say, what that I did, other than the book that you were talking about, was developing the master's and doctoral programs at the University of Oklahoma. And if you think about those, there is a Master of Music in Performance and Pedagogy. There's a Master of Music Education with a piano pedagogy emphasis. There's a DMA in Performance and Pedagogy, and there's a PhD with a pedagogy emphasis. Why do you think I established that? Because I had that music education background
Mm.
as an undergraduate, and I knew there were people who wanted to really study music education as well as learning to play the piano and learning to teach. So that's how that collaboration actually began
Wow.
as a collaborating type thing.
And I think in some ways, I don't know, a crystal ball, a way to look into the present, but with eyes to the future, but to see that this is the way in which we serve our teachers, our pianists, our profession. Because I found my space there doing my DMA in performance and pedagogy, and it was clear for me that was my degree program, that was my curriculum, and doing all the specializations. But I think one of your legacies and your scholarship, but in addition to all of that, I think your advisor role in terms of knowing here are your strengths, here's what I see you do. And it's just, if you distill it all down, it's the heart of teaching. Like knowing who's in front of you and putting them in the right places.
Yes, and the other thing I always tell students is this, if especially graduate students who are preparing for an academic career or preparing to teach, when you are here studying, you want to strengthen your strengths. you don't want to focus on your weaknesses. You want to shore up your weaknesses enough to make them acceptable, but you want your strengths to be out of the world. You want to
Mm-hmm.
knock it out of the ballpark.
Yeah.
And don't try to be something you aren't. Be competent in things that you need to be competent in, but be really competent in your passion, what you want to do, and where you want to see yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think anyone who crosses paths with you professionally, personally, would see that authentic side of you and you model that. I think it's when you speak that, it's easier to receive that when you actually live it. And I think you do that so beautifully.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
And I think that's why it's when you hear that and you go, oh, what do I do? And when you say, I see you doing this, you do this well, why don't we focus on those kinds of things? I can see that even in what you're going to play, how you're going to, when you're working with an 8-year-old versus like a 28-year-old, and in those kinds of things.
Right. I feel like the collaborative part is so important, and really focusing on those things that you're good at is
Mm,
the route to go.
yeah, I have so much more to go there, but I wanted to also, I think it would be interesting to our listeners to know what are some of the challenges for EL Lancaster. You know, I mean, we all know as people, working and walking in our career paths, we've had challenges, whether it's personal or professional or a combination of both. But you are a pioneer in so many ways. I'm sure there were challenges or things that weren't clear?
Well, in some ways, I guess the biggest challenge is knowing what I wanted to do and figuring out what I wanted to do. I've really had like 2 or 3 different careers. I mean,
Mhm.
I had the academic career and then moved into the publishing world, and when I was at the University of Oklahoma, I thought I would never leave that.
Mhm.
And then, through, my work with Alfred Music, we were enticed, both my wife, Gail Kowalczyk, and I were enticed to move to California and take over the publishing program. And people said to me, how can you leave academia and how can you leave teaching? My response was, I'm going to be able to influence a lot more piano students throughout
Mhm.
the world by helping authors develop publications that students of all ages will
Mhm.
benefit from. So that instance, going back to the challenge is, I love teaching. I love that aspect. And now I'm in the third stage of my life, actually, in which, I'm teaching again
Yes.
and writing, still writing and trying to retire, but will I ever? That's the big question. Will I ever totally, Uh,
It doesn't seem even in some ways, from academia to publishing, it seems like there was a segue. I mean,
right.
life's opportunities and so forth and so on. But do you find yourself looking for balance in those things, or do they somehow seamlessly fit?
I think they definitely seamlessly fit because I'm still working in the piano pedagogy field, whichever
Mm.
route I'm going, the academic route, the teaching route, the publishing route, still teaching,
Yes.
still seeing students every week, not like I used to,
Mm.
but and still doing that and still guiding theses like I did lots of dissertations and just helping people find their focus in this great field that we're in is is what I really enjoy doing. And even like and that was what I did also in publishing, working with
Mm.
authors and helping them find and writers, excellent composers, helping to find the focus that was right for them to produce the materials that students need. or to fill in gaps in materials that aren't available. I mean, I think that guiding people in that direction was what I really enjoyed doing
Oh, I
a
think
lot.
I think I think that's so true, and you say it so elegantly. I think it would be interesting to know if were there any key decisions that you made or that changed or sort of was affirming that this is right, this is working, or did you just say, "Here's a door that's open, let me try it"? How does that work for you?
I think I'm the type of person that always needs another challenge.
Mm-hmm.
So the door that opened for me to move from full-time academia to full-time publishing was one like it's saying, you know, I really need to try something new, try something
Mm,
different. Can I do this? Can I make a difference by doing this? And even now, my work with the Francis Clark Center and being a member of the board and still in some ways helping develop the publications for that area. And it's nice with the Francis Clark Center publications is that you're able to develop publications that fit the mission of the Francis Clark Center.
mhm,
And that challenge, continues through that I have faced throughout my life.
mhm.
And I shouldn't call it challenge. I guess it's a challenge, but the interest and the
Yes.
giving and the collaboration,
Yeah.
that's what I still find in every endeavor I do. It's the same type thing.
Well, I am also a great admirer of just at the heart of all of these kinds of things. You are such an academic. You're such a scholar. I remember visiting you, and you were reading because what had just been published was, I think, was it the big Chopin book? It was like this thick.
The Alan Walker
Yes.
Chopin book.
And
Mhm.
you were just reading through it, but this is who you are. You're a scholar. You read widely. It's not, you don't have a narrow focus, and it kind of speaks to your eyes and the things that you're interested in, and it's a sort of a big picture.
I read widely about music. I guess I don't read that widely about fiction or
Mhm.
nonfiction and that kind of things. Although every once in a while I will. But things like a new biography of a composer or a new book related to pedagogy. I mean, it's always on my shelf.
Mhm.
I guess I do have this habit. If I buy the book, I think I've read it. But I do read a lot of that kind of things.
I love it. I just in a conversation, I'll say, "Oh, I'm thinking about this or that or the other," and then I remember time and time again, you would say, "Oh, by the way, there's a book that just came out. Oh, you should look at this or you should read that." And I just love that. It speaks to the life of the mind, and you're still so curious and
Well,
you're still so interested.
I try to keep. Someone said to me yesterday, "Do you keep your finger on the pulse all the time of what's happening in this field?" And I guess I really hadn't thought of it that way, but I
Mhm.
guess I do, because I'm always interested in what's happening at conferences, what's being written about, what's being researched in our field, and like to think ahead. Like I think about okay, what's going to happen now? AI is coming into this. We're going to have a how is that going to affect us?
Mm.
You know, how are we going to figure out how AI is going to affect piano teaching? How's it going to affect uh, piano pedagogy? How's it going to affect our field? How's it going to affect our curriculum? How's it going to affect the publishing industry?
Yeah.
I think my next goal is to try to figure that out. Or try to find the people who have figured it out and read about it, so I don't have to figure it out. I think that maybe I'd rather do that at this stage in my life. But uh,
Well, it's interesting to me, and it just makes me smile, and it brings me a lot of joy. But when I think about what inspires EL, in your life and work, in some ways, it's all of these kinds of things I'm hearing from you. Is I don't know. Is there something that fuels all of this, that you have this vision, this larger vision beyond like what are we doing today?
What inspires me, I think, in terms of piano and piano teaching and piano pedagogy and piano performance is figuring out how we, really make it enticing to not only our professionals, but make it enticing to the general population, to the world.
Mm-hmm.
What can we do to bring piano to everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Like my most recent publication is called Piano for Life. And that's what I
Yes.
want people to be able to experience it. How is it in your life? I don't know.
Mm.
Is it playing a lead sheet? Is it turning on the radio and
Mm.
listening to piano music? Is it going to a concert? How does piano relate to everyone's life? And to try to get it to relate to everyone's life, whether it's listening to the keyboard in a rock band,
Mm-hmm.
and figuring out, what is that keyboard doing there? You know, uh,
I think in some ways, maybe because you've traveled, you've seen teachers, you've former students, uh, making inroads with new teachers across the globe, like internationally. It's not this is North America, or it's not this is what music and music making looks like in this country. You've been in many places. You've seen people with means and without means. How does that impact your idea and the things that you're talking about music and accessibility for all? On our role as teachers and makers.
well, interestingly enough, when you ask that question, and I think about my trajectory, I did not come from a family of means. I did not come from an area in which the arts were necessarily a large part of what was going on. But I know that there is a path, regardless of where you grew up or how you grew up, that piano and music can fit into your life in
Mm.
some way. And that's what I always want to guide people to find. I don't have to find it for them,
Mm.
but I want to spark that interest for them to find it for themselves. And I always used to, I always told students, if so your student colleagues, some may be very good at one thing, but you need to appreciate, if they're not good at the same thing you are good at, what they are good at, and
Mm.
develop that appreciation for each other and collaborative work. And I don't mean collaborative piano at this point. I just mean
Sure.
collaboration
Yeah.
with other people and collaboration with the profession, really.
Well, and I think that just is it comes to full circle. And
Yeah.
I think it also speaks to a generosity of ourselves in recognizing that in one another. Um, when oftentimes we think about our playing, our what we can share and what we can say, and what you're saying is kind of open that up again and to appreciate the talents and skills of others because there's so much to learn and gain from that.
Right. And what I feel the most happy about is when I see former students who are excelling in the profession. Yeah.
Aw.
And it's always like, "Oh, my student? Oh, you're my grand student?" And I guess maybe there's great grand students. I know there are, but I always, I guess fortunately, I started to say unfortunately, but fortunately, there are great grand students, and to see a tradition, kind of passed on, because it was passed on to me from those teachers I mentioned
Yeah,
earlier before,
yeah.
who truly influenced me. The 4 pedagogy teachers I had,
Mhm.
like Berenson, uh, Rast, Larimer. I
Yeah.
see. I want to pass on in today's world, what they passed on to me that takes into account how things have changed. I don't know if that really made any sense or not, but everything changes. But I want to be able to pass on to the new generation similar things that they passed on to me to excite me about
Yeah.
this
And
profession.
I think you do that brilliantly. I think I see that. I see that time and time again in so many ways. I mean, just another sort of observation for me when the Music from Mozart series came out and developed, and you were demonstrating how you were teaching simple rhythms or teaching piano technique, and this is a way we introduce it to 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, and at the end, I thought, wow, there's that joy and that delight that you're still bringing. You talk about generations of students, and we're starting over with preschoolers.
Right.
And so I just thought, that's beautiful. You're not in the clouds. You're on the floor, and we're starting all over again, and then we're rebuilding. Kind of like that.
And interestingly enough, when you mentioned Music for Little Mozart, which is the course for 4 and 5-year-olds, a lot of the things that I have written and we've written, my wife and I, have actually been inspired by our own children. So when our children were young, we saw the need for that young preschool course. When they were teenagers, we saw the need for some other types of things. When I was teaching at the university, I saw certain needs that I wanted to address. And even when I was in the publishing world, I would see needs that wanting to be addressed in the field that I was not the person to do it. But my challenge was to find the person to do it. Yeah. And to see that they were given the opportunity to do it was the most important thing, I think.
That's another one. That's another word I really love when I think about you and the opportunities that the opportunities for all of us to have gained so much, but also the opportunities for us to learn and also to make anew. It's very much part of who you are and what you do to this day.
Right.
Yeah. I guess I could ask you, how does piano inspire you?
Piano inspires me to make music accessible to as many people as I can. However, I do it directly, indirectly, or by whatever means I can. Let's put it this way. I want to give them music opportunities any way that I can beg, borrow, or steal. So I can pass it on and inspire them to pass it on to whether it's their family, whether it's their students if they're teaching, or to someone they're talking to in a bar or a restaurant or wherever they happen to be, wherever they happen to be visiting. So I want them to get the same joy from music and piano that I've gotten from my life.
That's lovely. And you continue to inspire me and in all my work. And I think maybe that's the way it's supposed to work. You are continuing to pass it forward, and I want to continue to move it forward. And so I just am very grateful.
And it makes me very happy to see people like you and other people that I've worked with in my teaching career or publishing career doing the same thing. Now I can sit back and relax because I know everything's in good hands.
Well, you're still doing so. It makes it more fun to know that we're still all at it together.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move forward.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for this wonderful conversation and this time together.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The Francis Clark Center is a not-for-profit educational organization that serves the advancement of piano teaching, learning, and performing. Divisions include Piano Magazine, Piano Inspires Kids, Journal for Piano Research, National Conference on Keyboard Pedagogy, the New School for Music Study, Piano Education Press, International Online Teacher Education, and Piano Inspires Online Community Hub. Please visit us at pianoinspires.com to learn more about our impactful work and inspiring community.